Good morning, this is Shelby Law with the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Sunday, September 8th, 2024. The main fire potential impacts for the next couple of days are shown here. We have quite a bit going on. First, with some wind along the Sierra Front today with gusts up to 40 miles an hour. We see gusts over other portions of northwest Nevada and into western Idaho today with gusts up to 30 miles an hour. Isolated dry storms are moving through the state of Idaho today and portions of northwest Utah with mixed dry storms over eastern Nevada and into other portions of southern Utah. On Monday, the gusts continue along the Sierra Front, but we see winds expanding across much of Idaho with gusts 25 to 30 miles an hour possible there, and then some wetter storms moving into southern Utah with some mixed wet dry storms a little bit further north. On Tuesday, winds continue across much of the north and west. We see gusty winds picking up over southern Nevada on Tuesday as well, ahead of the next storm system. And then we continue to see some wet storms in southern Utah and mixed wet dry storms over northern Utah and into western Wyoming. Yesterday was a pretty quiet day for storms. We just had a few storms over central Nevada and then a few here in eastern Utah. This morning, however, storms have already started in southwest Idaho. These storms are definitely on the dry side and will be moving eastward through the state today. Yesterday, fire activity, we had 8 fires for just over 1,500 acres. Most of that acreage was on this fire near Reno, and large fire growth was 5,500 acres. ERCs have been on the upward swing across much of the geographic area the past couple of days under this warm, dry air mass. We still have some somewhat lower values over portions of central and eastern Utah, but elsewhere the values are pretty high, up above the 90th percentile or so. This morning's satellite imagery shows high pressure being squashed a little bit to the south as we see a low pressure center moving into southern Oregon, drawing moisture up into Idaho today. Smoke for this afternoon is shown here on the left. We have quite a bit of smoke over the central Idaho mountains with some clearing across southern Nevada. And then there's some smoke coming off that fire near Reno, and then some smoke from southern California moving into southern Nevada. Smoke impacts remain largely the same tomorrow, but we do see a little bit more of a southwesterly or westerly flow to the smoke, keeping smoke in the central Idaho mountains and moving into Montana. For today, we have quite a bit of high risk issued for the winds over Nevada, some winds moving into southwest Idaho behind the storms this morning, and then high risk triggers for lightning for other portions in Idaho and northeast Nevada and northwest Utah for those dry storms that are moving through today. Afternoon wind gusts shown here on the left show the strongest gusts along the Sierra Front, but then we also have areas of breezy conditions, 25 miles an hour or so, possibly up to 30, gusting 30 this afternoon into southwest and western Idaho. Lighter winds elsewhere, except where we'll see the gusty outflows from the thunderstorms in Utah. Minimum relative humidities are still pretty low across much of the area. Most areas seeing minimum RHs in the low to mid-teens. Precipitation shown here on the left for today really just shows spotty precip with those isolated dry storms moving through Idaho into portions of eastern Nevada and Utah today. And then our afternoon cloud cover shows a little bit more increasing cloud cover this afternoon over central Idaho as the moisture moves through. Tomorrow, the storms decrease across much of the area, but we will see winds continuing, especially along the Sierra Front and up into portions of central and eastern Idaho and western Wyoming. We have high risk issued for those winds tomorrow. A closer look at those winds again, showing gusty winds along the Sierra Front, some elevated breezes across northern Nevada, and then gusty winds once again over central and eastern Idaho and into western Wyoming with gusts up to 40 miles an hour possible in western Wyoming. Storms tomorrow will be limited to the higher elevations of Utah for the most part, and then maybe some isolated storms here along the Utah-Nevada border. On Tuesday, we begin to see a big low pressure system shaping up off the Pacific coast. This is a storm that will be bringing a pretty significant change in weather to the Great Basin in a few days. But ahead of that storm, we'll continue to see winds along the Sierra Front and some breezy conditions to the central Idaho mountains on Tuesday. Some continued storms in Utah and western Wyoming. Gusts for Tuesday really pick up, continued very strong winds along the Sierra Front, but we also see winds picking up over southern Nevada into southwest Utah. Still very breezy and gusty over eastern Idaho and northern Nevada as well. And then the storms continuing in eastern Utah and up into western Wyoming on Tuesday. 3-day precip totals shown here. Here we're looking at some of the storms moving through Idaho today, and then some of these storms in Utah will be over the next coming days as well. On Wednesday, the low really strengthening and moving onshore into southern Oregon. This will bring strong winds to much of Nevada and into southwest Utah ahead of that low. Cooler temperatures and some precip will start to move into the north for decreasing large fire potential across much of Idaho. On Thursday, the low swings right through Idaho, bringing a pretty significant cool down and widespread wetting rains, high elevation snow, very cool temperatures to the mountain areas. Quick look at temperatures on Wednesday. Highs already dropping on Wednesday down into the 70s and 80s, where today our highs are going to be in the mid 90s in some areas. So pretty significant drop by Wednesday, but temperatures further drop on Thursday for highs in the 50s and 60s across the north, and overnight lows down below the 30s with some mountain snow as that low moves through on Thursday. By Friday, that low exits the area to the east. We have low, large fire potential across the north, hoping for some significant widespread wetting rain on some of our fires in central Idaho with this storm. And then Saturday, another low pressure moving off the Pacific coast here. Should bring some dry and breezy winds back to the Great Basin. 7-day precip totals show that the precipitation from that nice low pressure system coming in Wednesday, Thursday. The bulk of the precipitation will be in Montana, but we will see some over the central Idaho mountains. These lighter blues in here, 1 inch to 1.25 inches of precipitation, and again, high elevation mountain snow included with some of that precip. Western Wyoming should get a decent amount as well. The extended forecast for September 15th through the 21st puts cooler temperatures along the coast to include portions of the Great Basin, the western half of the Great Basin, and then above normal precipitation trend to Idaho and to some extent Utah and Nevada as well. So hopefully we'll continue to see some of these low pressure systems continue to move through the Great Basin. And this concludes today's fire potential briefing. Please check back tomorrow for the latest updates.